My name is Jonathan Delgado. I'm in the Division of Performance Reporting, and thank you so much for joining us on our webinar today for utilizing the Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPR report, data downloads. We have lots of different questions about TAPR and also the data downloads. And so I'm going to review all the information that we have available on how you can utilize the TAPR data download. First off, what is the TAPR? Just a little review about the TAPR report. Back in the 90s, we released our very first Academic Excellence Indicator System, or AEIS report. And if you've been in accountability for a while, that might sound familiar to you. That was released in the 1990-91 school year. And AEIS published performance results by grade and subject area from the TOS test, and later the Texas Assessment of Knowledge and Skills test, or the TAKS test, for all campuses and districts in the state. It also included attendance rates and graduation, dropout, college readiness, demographics. All of that was available through AEIS, and you can still download archived copies of AEIS. AEIS then became the Texas Academic Performance Report in 2013. That was due to changes in the Texas Education Code. Specifically, the Education Code says that the TAPR report must include the following: performance on accountability indicators, STAR outcomes by student group, graduation plan information, SAT, ACT, workforce training outcomes, information on prior year non-proficient students, dual language, demographics, and Institute of Higher Education outcomes. All of this is available in TAPR. It's a great PDF report, and we get lots of questions about where does this data come from for TAPR. So the data primarily comes to us from the Texas Student Data System, Public Information Management System, TSTS PIMS. PIMS is the source primarily of all TAPR data, such as course completion, special programs, demographic data. So the agency doesn't produce this data. Districts submit this data for their campuses and districts through PIMS. And PIMS is legislatively mandated. It's a set of public education data that has to be reported for student, staff, course, financial, and organizational information. We collect PIMS data throughout the year through electronic submissions. There's a fall, spring, summer submission, and even an extended submission. Aside from PIMS data, our assessment data comes to us from ETS Pearson, ACT, the College Board, and IB. Post-secondary readiness data comes to us from the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board. So let's talk about TAPR data formats. In 1718, the TAPR report was expanded into two forms: an online report system, that's more comprehensive than in previous years, and a PDF report. Back in the 90s, when we had AEIS, and into the 2000s, it was just a AEIS, PDF, or paper version. Now we have TAPR, and we still have a TAPR PDF version, or the paper version, but we also have this online system. And the PDF is just really major data points that is designed for districts to fulfill their annual reporting requirements. The online system publishes additional data that's not required in statute. For example, like kindergarten readiness, or additional student group performance on STAR, like for example, migrant. We wouldn't use migrant for accountability, but we do have the data. And so we would publish like STAR performance results for students who are migrants on the TAPR online system. And so when you're going to pull a TAPR report, this is how it would look like. You would go to our current 1819 report that we have. Let's say you wanted a district report. You would select district, and then you can search, for example, by district name or the district number. You can search, like for example, for KDISD, and you would select the PDF TAPR to get the PDF version of any districts, in this example, KDISD's TAPR PDF. If you wanted to view the online system, you would just do the same thing. Instead of selecting PDF, like on the right-hand side, you would select TAPR system HTML, and that'll take you to our online TAPR system. The one thing about the online system is that you view the data in the HTML format. One thing that we have on the HTML system is a link on every single data view page that allows you to download whatever view you're currently looking at into Excel, a for example, this is KDISD, and I'm looking at their 18-19 student information page. This is their demographics. If I like this data and I want to take it from the web browser to Excel, I would click on the link to download this current view into Excel, and that'll give me an Excel download of my current view. So if I was looking at star data, for example, I could download that into Excel. Or I could download the demographic information into Excel and then manipulate the data that I currently have for this current district in Excel. So this option is great if you want to download a single HTML page into Excel. So if you want to manipulate a single data view for star or a single data view for enrollment by grade, that option is quick and it allows you to download the data right then and there. Now, for users that want data, for example, for all campuses, not just one high school or one district in Texas, but all data for all campuses. So all roughly 9,000 campuses, or maybe all 1,200 districts, or all 20 service centers, we provide the TAPR data download. On every single web page that we have for TAPR, not just for 18-19, but 17-18, 16-17, and so on, there is a link to download that specific year's information from the TAPR in the data download. So what is the TAPR data download? The TAPR data download provides you, the user, with the option to download data for all elements within each section of the TAPR in Excel in a comma delimited or tab delimited format, meaning you can download all demographic information for all campuses in the state, or all star data for all districts in the state. Once downloaded, you can manipulate this data in a spreadsheet or a software program. Popular ones that folks like to use, for example, would be SAS or SPSS. A lot of folks like using the data and manipulating it for dashboards in Tableau or Microsoft Power BI. Okay. And so when you click on the TAPR data download, you're given the following webpage. You can download first a way to download all the different TAPR sections from the PDF report into Excel in comma delimited or tab delimited formats. Now, remember, the TAPR report, the actual PDF report, includes percentages like on STAR, like 80% for approaches on grade 3 reading. Now, all of those percentages or rates can be downloaded into Excel. Now, this is best if all you need is just percentage information. 50% on STAR for science. Master's grade level, 80%. All those percentages can be downloaded using the rates only option. So this is an example on the bottom half of this page of a PDF report for KDISD. This is from page 1 of their PDF report, and you can see that we disaggregate data on STAR by not only the district, but all the different student groups. And so on this PDF report, for example, for the district, they had 89% at approaches for grade 3 reading. Now, let's say that you wanted to download this, not just for KDISD, but for all districts in the state. You can download this into a spreadsheet, for example, and then you can manipulate and run statistical analysis, not just on one district, but for all districts in the state. And so once downloaded, as an example, this is what the data view would look like. Now, a second option would be the advanced TAPR download, which includes not just percentages, but the actual numerators and denominators to generate that percentage on TAPR. Additionally, data sets on the TAPR HTML page, like kindergarten readiness, are only available through the advanced TAPR data download option. So going back to KDISD on their TAPR report, they had an 89% at the approaches grade level standard. Now, if I'm an academic researcher and I want to know the actual numerators and denominators to generate that percent, I can find that information in the advanced TAPR data download. So, for example, on the left-hand side is the PDF from KDISD's TAPR report. The district had 89% at the approaches grade level. Using the TAPR data download, I can download all district information on STAR into a spreadsheet. And then from there, using the advanced TAPR data download, as you can see right here, I've highlighted KDISD, which is District 101914. In the advanced data download, it has numerators and denominators for STAR for grade 3 reading. I can see through the TAPR data download that of the 5,798 test takers in grade 3 reading, KDISD had 5,133 that met the approaches grade level standard or above. So numerator denominator gets me 89% as listed on the spreadsheet and also listed on the TAPR PDF. So if I'm a researcher and I'm really interested in looking at numerators and denominators to get those percentages on the PDF report, I would want to utilize the advanced TAPR data download. A third option is available. If you're just looking at accountability information, you can download this into an Excel. This option is best if all you really need is just accountability data like we have on our accountability data reports, which is by domain and then by specific section like STAR or CCMR, for example. So why would we want to download all these different data sets? Well, for one thing, we get a lot of questions from academic researchers who are looking at the data, not just for the current year, but for example, a 5-year study or a 10-year study. We have TAPR beginning in 2013 all the way through 18-19, and you can also download AEIS data. So academic researchers like to pull 10 years worth of data and do a longitudinal study, for example. They would do this using the TAPR and AEIS data downloads. Business leaders like to look at demographic information, and all of that is available by every single campus in the state, so roughly 9,000. And also district leaders like to look at this to analyze their demographics over time or STAR performance over time. And so when you have numerators and denominators and percentages, this is very powerful because then you can get a longitudinal history of how your campus or district or county or service center has been performing not just on STAR, but on graduation rates, demographics, CCMR, military enlistment. All of that is available through the TAPR data download. Additionally, if you read, for example, like the Houston Chronicle or the Dallas Morning News, there are several different education stories where those newspapers publish, for example, heat maps on performance or demographics in the state. They do that by utilizing the TAPR data download, and also the agency has geographic information system data, GIS files. We have this for every single district in their attendance zone. So we have attendance zones for districts and also the school addresses and latitude and longitude information for campuses. So newspapers like to take our GIS data files and then merge it with TAPR data to create visualizations such as the one on the right-hand side. For example, that's an example of population density by county. They do that by utilizing the TAPR data download and then our GIS data that we have on our website. This presentation will not cover GIS, but if you would like more information on our GIS data files, you can go to our open data site where we have all of our campus and district GIS shapefiles, KML files, all that is there on the website listed. Just a couple of quick notes about the TAPR data download. The data on the TAPR report and on the TAPR data download employ masking in order to comply with the Federal Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So generally the term masking refers to the use of special symbols. You might have seen this as asterisks, and those conceal and maintain student confidentiality. Typically we would mask data for very small student groups or campuses that are very rural and only have a handful of students. In order to protect privacy, we would mask very small numbers. You can find more information about masking through the TAPR report and data download on the following website. Okay, let's do a walkthrough of the TAPR data download. In this example, we're going to demonstrate a download using the rates only option in the TAPR data download. I'm going to download all campus information in the state, and I'm going to include the reference information. So this is going to be a quick example of how we would download information such as all campus information on ratings, for example. One of the most frequently asked questions that we get when anyone does a TAPR data download refers to the column headers in the data files. This is an example of what the campus reference file looks like when you first download it. So this reference file contains information such as all of the different campuses in the state, the campus name, whether or not they're a charter, yes or no, whether or not they're an alternative education accountability campus, yes or no, the rating, the grade span, the classification type, whether they're elementary, middle, or high school. So looking at this Excel, it's hard to determine what is the column, for example, to let me know if this is a charter, yes or no, or what is the grade span, or where is the column that says this is the campus rating. The most frequently asked question is, why are my column headers full of these strange codes? So the data sets in TAPR are generated and downloaded based on SAS output. That comes with corresponding variable names that are used for the column headers. All of the column headers for all TAPR data is listed in the master reference HTML page for each corresponding year. For example, we were just looking at the campus reference information. And so there were specific column header codes, for example, like CFLCHART. That code for that column header corresponds to that specific label of what that variable name is, which is, in this case, the Campus 2019 flag for a charter school, yes or no. So in other words, every single TAPR data download includes variable names for the column headers. So essentially, you have to go into the reference file to reference what is the name of that variable to the actual label. For example, GRD-SPAN corresponds to the label of grade span for total enrollment. GRD type corresponds to the label campus type BEMS, which stands for like elementary, middle, high school, or both, like a K through 12 for total enrollment. So one method to clean a data download is to use the VLOOKUP function if you're using the TAPR data in Excel. VLOOKUP is an Excel function similar to like sum or total, and that's a way to manipulate the data. VLOOKUP is a way to retrieve data from a specific column in a table. So in this example, I'm going to use the VLOOKUP function to clean the column headers from our Excel data download. So let me go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to do a download quickly of our TAPR data. This is our TAPR website. Again, you can go to this website to download a campus report or a district report. I'm going to do the data download. I'm going to start off by downloading the data in Excel rates only. Here is where I would select all the campus data file, either by region or by county or by district within county. If I want to download all campus information for the entire state, I would then select this option, Campus Download. I'm going to download roughly data on 9,000 campuses. I'm going to continue. And I'm going to start off with the campus reference file. This campus reference file includes the following, like accountability rating. Is this a charter school, yes or no? The campus name. I want to select all these variables and download this data into Excel. And because this is roughly 9,000 different rows of data, it takes just a hot minute. And I'm going to open this in Excel. You might get this notification if you're downloading in Excel that the formats don't quite match. It's okay, you can select yes, open the data file. And this is my data download of just the campus reference information. As I mentioned, the most common question we have is, what do these column headers specifically mean? Going back to the web page, there are data elements for every single TAPR element listed here on our master reference for data elements in TAPR. Here is where you would download and view all the different column headers for all the different data views in TAPR. I just downloaded the campus reference data file. This includes the following information. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to show you an example of how we would clean up this data file in Excel. Here's my data, and I'm just going to, in another tab here, I'm going to paste this information from the website into Excel. I don't need to know this information here. So here's my download. How do I, for example, clean up this data file? Instead of going one single cell at a time, I can just use VLOOKUP. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to use VLOOKUP. And VLOOKUP is an equation where I can look up table information in another part in Excel. So what do I want to look up? Or what do I want to essentially fix? I'm going to do B2, which is that specific code, comma, and then it wants me to select my table, my lookup table, to where I can look up the value. I'm going to select my table that I'm going to use to reference that variable name. It tells me, it asks me in VLOOKUP, what is the column that will define the variable? Not column A, but column B, so it'd be 2, and then comma. And then when it looks up the code, is this going to be an approximate match or an exact match? And this is an exact match. I'm going to close the parenthesis and hit enter. And now what this has done using VLOOKUP, and I'm going to wrap this text. It has now looked at the table I just downloaded and cross-referenced this table to the variable and given me the name for that particular column. And so this is one way that you can clean the data when you do the data download through Excel, is VLOOKUP. So using VLOOKUP, I can then clean all the additional column headers. So on the top, I would go from the first download, then I can format and move around to have an updated column headers like I had listed below. A second method to clean the data is to use the Visual Basic function in Excel to automate the entire process. There's a specific script that we have that you can use to clean the column headers from a very large data download. So using this script, I'm going to give you an example of how you would download and clean a very large data set. So let's do that now. Going back to Excel, or the data downloads, instead of using the rates information, I am going to do the advanced TAPR data. From here, I'm going to download not the reference information, but let's say I want to download profile information, which includes staff, student, and annual graduate data. This is for all campuses in the entire state. So when the data is downloaded, you'll notice that this is in a DAT format. And you might get errors saying that maybe your computer doesn't recognize what to do with the DAT file. And so we have a lot of questions from folks saying, I have a DAT file, but how do I open it in Excel? So I just downloaded this campus profile data file. It's downloaded to my desktop. I'm going to open up a blank Excel workbook, and I'm going to tell Excel to open, and I'm going to browse my computer. On my desktop is my data file. I'm going to tell Excel not to look at just Excel files, which are .xls files, but all files. Looking at my desktop here, I am looking for the reference file that I just downloaded, campus profile, and then open. Now, as I mentioned before, the data is delimited. The data is typically delimited in a comma format. And so Excel is asking me to import this data into Excel. How? I would tell Excel this data is delimited. Next. The delimiter is not tab, but a comma. Next. And then I have on this first column my campus number, which is critically important. That's what I would use to join additional data sets on. I'm going to tell Excel that this is text because it has leading zeros that I would like to preserve. Now, Excel has opened this profile information page. Again, the question is, if this is campus profile, then what part of this data download tells me, for example, all student enrollment for grade 3 or African American enrollment at this campus? Again, I have to go back to the download page and go to the master reference of TAPR elements. I downloaded, in this case, the campus profile information. Within campus profile, there is staff, student, and annual graduate data. Looking at the student information on the advanced data download, there's all these different variables, which is the count by grade level, and then the count and percent of all the student groups, like all students, African American, Hispanic, and so on. All of that is located in my advanced data download. Lots of different variables. So let's clean up this data download. Again, I'm going to copy all this information into another tab here in Excel. And I don't need these two columns, so I will delete. And now, using the script that I just mentioned in the PowerPoint, you can copy this script, and in Excel, there is an option in the Developer tab to use the Visual Basic function, which allows you to run specific commands. This specific command I am going to use, I'm going to insert a module, paste the script that I just listed in my Excel, and I'm going to tell this program to run. It's going to ask me in Excel to use the visual, to look at the original range. So going back to my Excel, I'm going to tell the program that I want it to clean up this row of column headers that I'm going to select. And there's a lot of data here. So I'm selecting all of these columns because this is so much work that I'm not going to do it one at a time. So all of these column headers is my original range. Then it's going to ask me to look at my key. The key that I have is here on the tab in Excel that I copied over, and I'm going to click OK. And now the program has run. Going back to where I started at, you'll see that my column headers now, I'm going to wrap the text, have now been replaced in one mass swoop. So my profile information now looks much cleaner using that specific command. Now my TAPR data download looks like a proper download. I have all the campuses by campus number, and now I actually have rate information, demographics. Here is my count, for example, of English learners, economically disadvantaged percent, economically disadvantaged count, special education bilingual, count by grade level, just like on the TAPR PDF, but now in Excel, not just for one campus, but for all 9,000 campuses in the state of Texas. So now that this is nice and clean, I can, for example, join this with additional data downloads, like for STAR or graduation. I can apply filters, or I can correlate, and I can find the information that I want. For example, using this download, I can filter by percent of economically disadvantaged count. Let's say I'm only looking at campuses that are 1,000 in enrollment or above. I can do that and filter for a listing of those campuses. And then I can correlate that information, for example, with high schools or middle schools or campuses that are in Bexar County or campuses that have a high eco discount correlated to military enlistment. And I can do that once I download all these variables and coordinate this through Excel. So once the data is downloaded, you would just join this with additional Excel spreadsheets. And so you would download, for example, STAR or CCMR, participation or graduation, and join that with additional data sets. Now, in order to join those data sets, you might have a data set for 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year graduation rates. How would you download, or how would you join that with STAR data? Well, in order to join that information, the key variable in every single data download is the CDN, which is the campus or county district number. For example, if you have a CDN like 227901, that is Austin ISD. And so when you're joining information for Austin ISD, the same variable that would apply across the board is that county district number. 9-digit, like 227901001, will refer to a specific campus. So when you're downloading different variables, the same thing would apply whenever you join the data, which is that specific campus district number. So joining STAR data, and then CCMR, and then participation, it would all join based on that campus or district number. So just a quick review of how that would work. I have 2 spreadsheets here, which is the one that I just produced here in Excel. Let's say I just want to, I'm going to hide this. Let's say I only want these 2 different variables, which is the campus number and the total students with disabilities count. I would copy this information, and going back to my reference file, I could then I want to insert this into my reference file. And the thing that would line up would be the campus number here. And so, for example, if it is off slightly, you would need to just simply correct. So I'm going to delete and move up this information so that it's equal. And so now I have students with disabilities joined with profile information. So I can see all the different campuses in the state. And now I can filter. So I can filter, for example, by, is this campus in A, B, C, or D, along with the total count of students with disabilities. This is just a very simple example of how to join the data once you have multiple data downloads through TAPR. But you would join it by making sure the campus number aligns with every single download, or the district number aligns with every single download. Then in this example, I can look at students with total disabilities by campus name or by county, or whether or not it's a charter, or so on. So the TAPR downloads are currently available for the 18-19 school year. If you wanted to look at previous TAPR data reports and downloads, you can download that from 2012 and 13 all the way through 17-18 and our current TAPR data download. If you're doing a longitudinal analysis for 10 or 15 years, you would download, for example, demographics with TAPR along with the AEIS reports. We have AEIS reports available and downloads beginning in the 2003-04 school year. So you have data in PDF report and in a data download going as far back as the 2003-04 school year. So if you're doing, for example, a demographic analysis, you can download AEIS data and TAPR for roughly about 15 years and look at the data that way through data downloads. This was just a very, very brief introduction on how to utilize the data downloads through TAPR. The TAPR data downloads literally have tens of thousands of different variables to download, not just by grade level and subject area, but for each of the race ethnicities, along with numerators and denominators. So when you download STAR or CCMR or participation, it really gets into the tens of thousands. One helpful hint is that if you're looking, or if you are a researcher and are looking for something specific, like for example, is there an option to download level 1 and level 2 certificates in the TAPR data download? Well, we do have that as a download. This is available through the campus data download and district using the campus college or the CCMR and post-secondary readiness data download. Within that main download, there is, going through all the different variables, level 1 and level 2, so way down the line here, level 1 and level 2 data by student group. So if you're a researcher and want to know, I want to, for example, figure out of all the counties in Texas, which have the highest level of level 1 and level 2 certificates earned by graduates. You can certainly do that because it's in the data download, and then you can filter by county. Or I want to know staff and student information. Like for student information, is there a way to look at, for example, 504 counts of students by campus? Yes, we do have that as a variable in the TAPR data downloads. And so once you download the profile information, you can find out, for example, rank order, like all campuses in the state by 504. So there's literally tens of thousands of different variables in TAPR. It's very powerful. It's great for researchers, for the business community. And if you're doing an analysis of your campus or district history, you can download several different years of data to get a perspective on where your campus has been performing or the demographics. And then you can project out, for example, enrollment. Is it increasing, decreasing? Is it stagnant? All the data downloads will give you the power to do those types of projections. If you have any questions about the TAPR report or the TAPR data download, you can contact us at the following. You can go to the TAPR website. You can send us an email at performance.reporting@tea.texas.gov, or you can call us. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar this afternoon. I know this was a very quick and brief overview of the TAPR report. There is lots of different information on TAPR. If you happen to get lost or if you have any specific questions on TAPR, we are more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone in March when we review the identification of schools for improvement.